Life without liberty is like a body without a spirit was once quoted by Khalil Gibran. So what does liberty mean to people now? Does it still have the same sentimental value it used to? To me, liberty entails responsibility. Every decision you make either leads towards liberty or towards bondage. Liberty, to me, creates a fair and equal society for everyone. Liberty helps defend the rights of minority groups such as children, people with mental disabilities, people even becoming homeless soon. Hi, my name is Riley Vogt, and I'm here to discuss the topic of liberty. Now is a crucial time for liberty and every freedom and right we hold dear. Over the past few years, multiple events have been eroding our U.S. Constitution. These events include the Patriot Act and the rapid rise of drone usage by our U.S. government. The Patriot Act is an act of Congress which was signed into law by President George W. Bush on October 26, 2001. In the fearful days after 9/11, the Department of Justice sent a draft legislation to Congress that, if enacted, would have permitted federal agents to violate their oaths and uphold the Constitution by writing their own search warrants, when the Fourth Amendment clearly states, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. So what this means is that a law made to protect us actually violates us, our rights, our Constitution, and all the officers who take that precious oath. It's the same thing with the rapid rise of federal surveillance over America. About a decade ago, the Border Control started using surveillance drones. It was innovative, smart, and few citizens did any worrying. The technology and the mission were the perfect match, or so we thought. The belief that the federal government was using the drones to conduct surveillance inside and around the U.S. border was not entirely true. In 2013, Senator Dianne Feinstein, a staunch defender of the NSA surveillance, declared that the drones are the biggest threat to privacy in society today. Under her questioning, the FBI admitted to using the drones in a very minimal way. But Feinstein knew something that they weren't telling her. It was that the federal government gave local police departments $1.2 million to spend on drones that year. If that's not already a big enough violation to us and our rights, let's jump ahead to 2016. Not too long ago, USA Today reported that the Pentagon has deployed drones to spy over U.S. territory for non-military missions over the past decade. But according to a Pentagon military general, the flights are rare and lawful. Does that still make it okay? This is why now is such a crucial time for people to want their liberty, thrive for their liberty, and fight for their liberty. So back to my earlier question, what should liberty mean to people? Abraham Lincoln once stated, "The world has never had a good definition of liberty, and the people, just now, are in much need of one. We all declare for liberty, but in the using of the same word, we do not all mean the same thing." So here's my definition for liberty. Liberty guarantees us the things like the right to participate in our U.S. government, the right to be heard and listened to, and the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty gives us the ability to fulfill our God-given rights. Life without liberty is unthinkable. I mean, who wants to live at the end of another's leash, fearing at every turn what those armed with force and power might do to us, even if they have good intentions? To people, liberty is important because it allows them to have freedom. To nations, it's important because it makes them popular. People feel safe there. I mean, that's why America is listed third on the world's population list. People want to live there because they're guaranteed things like liberty and happiness. Liberty is precious, rare, and always threatened, so make sure you cling to yours for dear life. We are all blessed to be living in a country with rights like these ones. Again, my name is Riley Vogt, and I hope that you will strive for your liberty as much as I do. Thank you.
Picture this. There was a knock on the door. You didn't answer out of fear. You are pregnant and have an 8-year-old daughter. You just want them to be safe. Then out of nowhere, bam, he knocked down the door, and instantly your biggest fear becomes true. Both you and your daughter have just become victims of domestic violence. This is a true story of a woman named Angel. Welcome, fellow judges, guests, and contestants. With just a simple solution for domestic violence, we could be helping over 85% of America's population. There are multiple forms of domestic violence, including physical, sexual, verbal, nonverbal, and even spiritual. Domestic violence is a primary concern for many Americans that must be addressed. To begin, the lives of many are negatively impacted by domestic violence. A quote from Ashira Tyram highlights the daily struggles for many women in abusive homes. She stated, "If we are to fight discrimination against women, we must start at the home of the woman. If she does not feel safe in her own home, then she will not feel safe anywhere." Most of the time, someone is being abused in their own home due to jealousy, power, and need for control. What's even more disappointing is that only 25% of the abused make a police report. This is a growing concern. According to the Department of Justice, 3 to 4 million women have been abused by their boyfriends or husbands at least once. Furthermore, why is it that most victims are female? Could you imagine being held in one room for more than half of your life? Could you survive being beaten to death almost every single day? These questions are always being asked by the United States Department of Justice. Their research clearly states that over 85% of reported abuse is female-related, and over 60% of police calls are to report abuse. Domestic violence can also be triggered due to overconsumption of alcohol. We must take a stand and help these abusive actions in America. In fact, if you have been abused for more than 2 years, you are most likely to have heart problems, arthritis, and as well as hypertension. According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, one woman is beaten every 15 seconds. My fellow Americans, we need a solution. Too many lives have been lost in this tragic way. Fortunately, there are many domestic violence survivors in the U.S. There are also shelter wings. These shelters are for the women who have had the bravery to run away to their freedom. They provide beds, bathrooms, and all the necessary appliances. They have gone as far as helping 1 out of every 3 women find peace and safety. So after 4 months, Angel had managed to get 2 jobs, and as well as an apartment. And now, after 3 years, she has found her lifelong soulmate and is living the life of the free. In conclusion, domestic violence is clearly a problem that could be solved with just your courage and your bravery. Standing up to your abuser might be a risk you need to take to seek your freedom. And just over the 4 minutes I have been talking, over 16 women have been abused in some way. For more information, call 1-800-799-SAFE, or please donate to the Joyful Foundation. Together, we can make American homes safe again.
Nothing can dim the light which shines from within. Maya Angelou. And when it comes to America, this quote could not prove to be more true. Hello judges, fellow contestants, and guests. My name is Isis Chacon, and I'm an 8th grader from Peoria Elementary. America. There are so many words the name of our great country brings to mind. Among them are liberty, civil rights, love, peace, equality, and respect. America is truly beautiful. All these elements that make America a phenomenal country have led us from the Emancipation Proclamation to Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. From slavery to freedom, and from segregation to unity. Going back to Maya Angelou's quote, America shines with beauty because the ideals, the foundation on which we built our great country, are beautiful. America is radiant because we have always strove to improve. Even in our golden age, we work for more. Washington, Jefferson, Hamilton, Adams, Franklin, they struggled to build an ideal nation. Susan B. Anthony and the Grimke sisters took on the task of giving women rights. Lincoln worked for freedom, and Martin Luther King Jr. aimed for equality through peace. Today, we work to stay true to those ideals. Our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, they have become the blueprints of a nation we continue to build. We started as 13 separate colonies, with our only connection being that we belonged to King George III. Since then, we have become 50-strong United States. We have risen above the obstacles and challenges, moved beyond our differences, and we have reached for the stars together. America is a nation of geniuses, of dreamers, inventors, and workers. If we wanted to and truly put our minds to it, we could do anything we are crazy enough to imagine, anything we dare to attempt. I have never seen cowardice in America, only bravery and determination. I have never known America to flee, but to fight for that which is worth fighting for. America is strong. We are the American people. We are the foundation. We the people hold America up. We the people make America strong. We the people are the light that shows the beauty inside our country. May we as a people continue to rise, continue to be brave and strong. May we as a people refuse to be divided by prejudice and discrimination. Let us continue to impact the world and each other. Let us continue to overcome our challenges. Let our names go down in history as people who changed the world. And lastly, let us as a people, as a society, as a community, and as a country, continue to work for our American dreams. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you appreciate the freedom U.S. citizens possesses? Do you appreciate living in the land of opportunity? That's what I'm asking you. Hello, fellow students, judges, and audience. My name is Ariana Dale, and I hope I can persuade you that America is an open-minded land of opportunity. First of all, Thomas Jefferson was the founding father and author of the Declaration of Independence, third President of the United States, Secretary of State, second Vice President, and statesman in Louisiana. As you can see, he participated a lot in the governmental environment. But why did he run for President of the U.S.? I believe it was because, 1, he wanted our country to continue being a peaceful place to live. 2, he wanted his power and influence to help other countries believe they too could have freedom. 3, as the President of the United States and main author of the Declaration of Independence, he wanted to make sure that the words on the document were important enough to live by for years to come. As Thomas Jefferson once said, "My God, how little do my countrymen know what precious blessings they are in possession of, in which no other people on earth enjoy." Now, even though he said countrymen, we know that word is a little different than today. When he said countrymen, we unfortunately know he was talking about the white men. For example, the white men had the right to vote. Slaves and women could not. The white men had the right to work. Slaves picked cotton and tobacco, and women raised their children and cleaned. The white men had the right to own property. Slaves were property, and women could not own property. But to compare, in 2017, let's talk about how things really have changed. Now, we have the right to vote, as long as you're 18 years old and up and a U.S. citizen. We have the right to work, any gender. We have the right to own a roof over our heads. Now, The land of opportunity has even more opportunities that we could have never dreamed of in Thomas Jefferson's days. In conclusion, if you live in the U.S., you have more opportunities that people in other countries have only dreamed of. So as me being an African American and female makes me glad that now I could ride my bike, dress the way I want to, and be your next president in the future. But before I go, just think about this quote. My God, how little do my countrymen know what precious blessings they are in possession of, in which no other people on earth enjoy. And let's be honest, we would not be standing here if it wasn't for the leaders and believers like Thomas Jefferson. So, are you appreciating this country? Thank you.
Picture this. Your expression has been banned. Everything that separates you from the rest of the world has been stolen away, locked up in a small box, and the key's been broken. Everything you say is scripted. If you dare to say one thing that strays away from your mental script, you will be punished. If you try to gather with anyone outside of whom is in your household without someone of a higher authority to drag you down, you will be severely punished. Ladies, gentlemen, judges, I'm Savannah Martinez, and unlike America the free, home of the brave, where we live, breathe, and thrive, that small snip of imagination is no imagination. Many people live that as their reality each and every single day. In countries like North Korea, Burma, Syria, and many others, that is their reality. They have no freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, or, well, everything else that falls underneath the category of the First Amendment. Speaking of the First Amendment, how many of you actually know what it says? For those of you that don't, the First Amendment to our Constitution states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free practice thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of people to assemble peaceably and to the petition of the government for the redress of grievance. It's a mouthful. Even so, this might just be the most important amendment we have. Every day, without knowing it, we use this, and we take it for granted. Now, I know many of you might be asking that, how do we do so? Here's how. When you speak, give an opinion, state an idea, you're practicing and stretching your freedom of speech. Whether you practice a religion or you decide not to, you're using your freedom of religion. If you decide to express yourself, once again, you're using a freedom that the First Amendment to our Constitution has gifted you. Apps, books, websites, they all use these every single day. Like, here's an example of freedom of speech. A few months ago, around election time, the app Snapchat decided to upload a filter for only one presidential candidate, but not the other. Not only were they using their freedom of speech, they also decided to use their freedom of the press, or more commonly known as freedom of expression. The freedom of expression is the right to both be seen and heard. Whether you're giving a speech much like I'm presenting to you now, or you're on a news station like TMZ, Fox News, or CBS, you're all practicing that freedom. Now, I'm wondering if you guys finally see it. Do you see how we use and take this freedom for these sets of freedoms for granted every single day? It's a part of our daily lives, and without it, none of us would be the person we are. I hope I have shined some light on the subject. Ladies, gentlemen, and judges, have a wonderful day.
I am an American, and I love my country. Heck, I even dyed my hair blue. But the only thing I do not love is the Electoral College. Hi, my name is Kate Runyon, and I'm here to talk about the Electoral College. The Electoral College was created by our founding fathers in order to have the citizens vote. But that was 200 years ago, so why do we need this today? At the Constitutional Convention 1787, the Founding Fathers decided to create the Electoral College because they did not want Congress to have all the power in choosing a new president, and they wanted to get the citizens involved. But they did not want the citizens to actually vote. It was the 1700s. It took weeks to get information across the new country, and most citizens were illiterate and therefore thought to be ill-informed. Thus, they came up with a compromise, the Electoral College. Although this worked back then, the Electoral College no longer serves the intended purpose today. The Electoral College is based on each state's population, and using that population, each state receives a certain number of votes. On the first Tuesday in November, the citizens vote for who they think should be the president. But they do not vote for the president, they vote for a representative. Then, on the third Monday in December, the Electoral College, which is that group of representatives, is supposed to vote for who they represent. Finally, the Electoral College gives their ballots to the Senate, and the Senate counts the votes and says who won by having at least 270 votes. While that worked 200 years ago, why do we need the Electoral College now? I believe that we don't. We have laws in place for public schools which children must legally attend until they're 16, and children start learning to read in kindergarten, so now people are illiterate. We also have television and the internet, which can get information from California to New York in a fraction of a second. So distance is no longer the issue it was. Think about the first presidential debates shown on TV with Nixon and Kennedy. This event started to get more people to think about politics and become more politically aware. Now, with more and more people politically aware, this made the popular vote an even bigger issue than it was. Take, for instance, the 2000 election. Al Gore, who won the nationwide popular vote by 500,000 votes, lost the electoral vote to Bush 276 to 266. This shows that the Electoral College votes per state and does not represent individual American voices. Gore wasn't the only one to be snubbed out of the presidency by the Electoral College. In 1888, Grover Cleveland got almost 100,000 more votes than Benjamin Harrison, but Harrison won the electoral vote by 65 votes. This also happened in the 1876 election. Samuel S. Tilden beat Rutherford B. Hayes in the popular vote by 250,000 votes. Although in the end, Hayes triumphed over Tilden by a singular electoral vote. Many people believe that the Electoral College helps America by listening to the citizens and choosing the new president based on their choice. But if a candidate loses the electoral vote and loses the popular vote but wins the electoral vote, that is not who the citizens want as their president, as I mentioned before. If you still do not think the Electoral College should be abolished, look no further than the 2016 election. Hillary Clinton won by 2.9 million popular votes, but lost the electoral vote to President Donald Trump by 74 votes. So what happened to those nearly 3 million American voices? They were not listened to and are now rioting in the streets. In conclusion, I just want you to ask yourself, why is the Electoral College still needed when we, the people, were established in the Constitution as equal and our votes aren't?
Good afternoon. My name is Larissa Frisbee. In 2016, protests and riots broke out across the country. For example, in San Jose, California, a woman wearing a Trump jersey was pushed against a wall, spit on, and had eggs thrown at her. Across the state, in San Diego, California, Trump supporters pepper sprayed protesters outside a rally. And then in Atlanta, Georgia, a man was murdered, shot 3 times over an argument about the election. And this all leads into January 20th, 2017. Donald J. Trump was inaugurated as our 45th President of the United States of America. This event sparked many feelings for Americans throughout the country. Feelings of happiness, sadness, fear, but the most ubiquitous feeling was clearly anger and outrage, as many people in the days following the inauguration tuned in to multiple news broadcasts to witness protests, riots, and hate crimes filling the streets of America. As the day of inauguration slowly drifted away and protests continued, I decided to sit down and ask myself why everyone was so divided, why we took to anger and violence to make our voices heard, especially considering the fact protesting will not change the outcome of our election. On a new note, Charlie Dent once did say, "We live in a time of conflict, both internal and external, where sometimes we concentrate too much on what divides us. Today, fly the stars and stripes with pride and confidence that what really unites us is far stronger." His words can mean a majority of things, given the controversy in our country. You see, we do face much conflict in today's time. And because of the inauguration, many people feel the government is unstable, undependable, untrustworthy, and outright unsafe. And these feelings they feel can be justified by fear or anger at or toward our government. For many reasons, it's perfectly okay for people to be afraid of the decisions made by political leaders, as many are. But is there a way to put this kind of anxiety at ease? Of course, but the answer cannot be found simply by saying it, but by following the steps in order to achieve it. Are you ready? Put aside our differences, because one country united is stronger than one country divided. Focus on what defines America, and that's not a president, that's us, the people. We define America. Make your voices heard. Good or bad, we need to make our voices heard. But in order to do this, we have to stand close enough to a president so that he can still hear our voices and concerns. Stay involved, because in the words of Charlie Dent, fly the stars and stripes with pride and confidence. Devote a part of yourself on working to improve America by staying involved. This can include writing letters to Congress, volunteering in a community for a common goal, staying educated on political topics, and doing research on said topics to create your own opinions, voting on laws, candidates, and anything you feel strong towards, petitioning topics of interest, giving speeches in front of a group, etc. And these are only a few ways to not only benefit our country, but in many ways ease the anxiety of the American people by giving them knowledge that they have a say in what goes, and anything they say can be backed up by the First Amendment. On a new note, Charlie Dent once said, "We live in a time of conflict, both internal and external, where sometimes we concentrate too much on what divides us." And it's perfect for the situation we're in now, where such controversy has divided us as a country. So why don't we create a new situation? One where the American people can come together to create a scenario, and where not only the president makes America better, but one in which the people greatly influence the change in America and make an impact on our future. And yes, the president does need the people, because the simple fact is he cannot run a country by himself. He needs a government. But what good is a government without the American people? It's our choice for a president, and it's our choice for a government, but then that means it's our choice if we allow our country to rise or to fall. And at the end of the day, does it really matter if you voted for one candidate and your neighbor voted for another? What matters is that we are America, and it also matters that we come together and unite and fly the stars and stripes with pride and confidence that what really unites us is far stronger. And as good patriots and citizens, we cannot have a good country if we don't work hard on improving it and believing that we can in our hearts. Now let me leave you with but two simple questions, both peer and adult. How will you come together and unite to improve America? How will you fly the stars and stripes?
Hi, my name is Alina White, and my patriotic speech is going to explain how African American history has shaped African American contributions to patriotism towards America. Then after, I'm going to conclude with a poem that I wrote myself called Carry On, Hold On. America is a strong country and one worth fighting for. Not all people can fight due to mental, physical, and other personal disabilities. So to show respect for our country, we show patriotism or just appreciation for our country. There are several different ways to express patriotism, those including wearing the country's colors, making songs or poems, or donating to troops. But in my eyes, the most patriotic thing that we can do as Americans, is standing up to make the country better or to create change. One person who succeeded in that action is our 16th President, Abraham Lincoln. President Lincoln persevered in creating change during a turbulent time of war and social change, therefore ending the war. President Lincoln also did the best that he could to bring the country back together after the Confederates seceded. Abraham Lincoln's famous words, "Nearly all man can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power." And with this power, former President Lincoln abolished slavery in 1865, which changed many slaves' lives as well as shape our country's future. According to dictionary.com, patriotism is defined as devoted love, support, and defense for one's country or national loyalty. President Lincoln is an excellent example of patriotism as expressed in his words. And in the end, it is not the years in your life that matter, it is the life in your years. It has been 154 years since slavery has been abolished. And since then, the lives of African Americans have changed for the better. However, after slavery was abolished, it was still difficult for African Americans to be treated equal. But time went on, hearts became softer, and more jobs could be pursued, and dreams could be fulfilled. And now in the present day, that is what's happening. Not only can African Americans can be free, but they can also become lawyers, astronauts, doctors, and whatever their hearts desire. And with the freedom to choose, African Americans have been able to serve their country in previously unthought of ways. For example, serve in different branches of the military, perform the first open heart surgery in America, help with the first space shuttle mission, invent traffic lights and gas masks. With the decision to abolish slavery, it has motivated people to do what they want to and not be scared to do so. Now America has some of the best doctors and technology. Also, the freedom of religion, race, and all beliefs. It does not matter if you're African American, white, Asian, Mexican. America is colorblind and accepting to all. So when you go to the store, mall, or simply just walk down the street, look at people and see their hearts, not their skin color. Hear their happiness, not their voice, and know their personality and not their appearance. And now I'm going to conclude with a poem that I have wrote myself called Carry On and Hold On. We are tired and we are hungry. Carry on, carry on. Freedom, we need freedom. Hold on, hold on. A moment of peace in this everlasting war. Air for those who have been suffocating. Light for those who have been consumed by darkness. We are free, finally free. Now in the year of our Lord, 2017, we're a bouquet of blossom flowers of all different colors, shapes, and sizes. United again at last, once again at last. And although we are colorblind, we see the most, beyond appearance and discovered passion. One step at a time, one day at a time, one pursued dream, many more to go. Never give up and strive for greatness. We are tired and we are hungry. Carry on, carry on. Freedom, we need freedom. Hold on, hold on. Success is never out of arm's reach. Hate can never override love, and what is right is visible to even the blind. Freedom, we need freedom. It is here, finally here.
I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they're not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. This is an amazing quote from the very famous I Have a Dream speech delivered by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He didn't believe in hatred and violence, for he saw that in our past, hatred and violence has gotten us nowhere but more hatred and violence. For he stated, in our past, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Just as hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. He caused the government to fear an uprising. That's the most patriotic thing any American can do. It's as Thomas Jefferson stated, "When the government fear the people, you have liberty. When the people fear the government, you have tyranny." His worldwide known "I Have a Dream" speech was very motivational and reached millions of Americans' hearts, making them believe a better future was possible, and it was. Take a look around you. Look back on your life. Are you satisfied with where we are and the progress we've made since he gave that speech? I am. We can always do better, but we have made a lot of progress. Said on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial 54 years ago this summer, his call for an end to racism was a defining moment in this nation's history. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. became the most prominent leader in the civil rights movement to end racial segregation and discrimination in America during the 1950s and 60s. He was a leading spokesperson for nonviolent methods of achieving social change towards civil rights. When he was a boy, he lived with his two parents, Christine and Alfred Daniel Williams King, his two grandparents, and his two siblings. He loved being with the siblings. He played football with them as well as playing piano with them. When he was with his siblings, he felt like a piece of him was filled. He was complete. He was born on Tuesday, January 15th, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia. His grandfather was a sharecropper in a small town outside of Atlanta. So being the grandson of a sharecropper, he knew both the difficulties of being African American and poor. In 1944, he began his college career at Morehouse College in Atlanta, continuing at Crozer Theological Seminary, earning a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology. From there, he continued his education at Boston's University School of Theology. His worldwide known speech, as I mentioned earlier, was very motivational. Raise your hand if you've never heard his I Have a Dream speech. That's not a hand in this room. He has reached millions, for he states, "No, we cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi believes he cannot vote and the Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream." I'm not unmindful that some of you have come here through great trials and tribulations. Some of you have escaped from narrow jail cells. Others of you, on your quest for freedom, has left you battered by the storms of persecution and the winds of police brutalty. Everyone has suffered in their own way, whether it be Susie just got an F on her test and now her mom's mad at her, or you don't have enough money to pay the rent this month and you don't know what you're going to do to help your family. We've all suffered. He brings us into his speech. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., through all of his accomplishments, became the most patriotic man in history. Thank you for your time.
Imagine yourselves living in a country where you didn't feel free, where the government dictated who we were to worship, what we were to say. Imagine not being able to watch the news or listen to the radio. Crazy, huh? Well, the First Amendment is the exact thing that gives us the freedom to do these things. Good afternoon, fellow contestants and judges. My name is Autumn Lasiste. The First Amendment. The First Amendment, to become a part of our Constitution, states, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition to the government for a redress of grievances." In short, the government cannot deny us of our freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and right to petition. Let's go over what the First Amendment offers us and what these freedoms mean. Freedom of religion prevents the government from setting up an official religion of the country. The freedom of religion gives U.S. Americans a choice. We have the choice to worship as we please. Without this, the government would most likely create a national religion, where everyone would have to believe what the government believes. Or the government could cancel religion from our lives completely. We wouldn't have the different types of churches we have today either. In Middle Eastern Saudi Arabia, 85 to 95% of their population is Muslim, with only the exception of foreign workers. Anyone caught practicing another religion would be arrested or forced to practice the religion privately in their own homes. Also in Saudi Arabia, the government has censored over 400,000 internet sites that may offend the Muslim religion. With the protection of the First Amendment, we can worship publicly, privately, or no religion at all with no punishment. Freedom of speech prevents the government from making any laws that will stop us from saying how we feel or think. The freedom of speech ensures that we all have a voice. We can disagree and have an opinion. Imagine being governed by a dictator who would punish you for just disagreeing with them. Well, in another country called Burma, it was just like that. Citizens there were run by dictatorship only until 1962. In my opinion, the freedom of speech is one of the things that makes America so great. It allows everyone to share their agreements and disagreements to hopefully come up with a way to satisfy everyone's needs. Freedom of the press. The government does not have the power to control what are on newspapers, news channels, radios, etc. We can see or hear people's opinions worldwide. Once again, in Burma, people who watch BBC News would also get arrested. Watching people's opinions on news programs and being able to listen to the radio freely was another thing given to us by the First Amendment. Without it, we wouldn't be able to connect with people around the world or hear their opinions on a certain topic. Freedom of assembly. American citizens can come together in private or public gatherings. This includes our everyday protests seen on the news. In my opinion, this can show people's unity. This amendment all started because we the people successfully protested to the government demanding our basic freedoms. Take this well-known civil rights activist, Martin Luther King Jr. He and thousands of other people would protest demanding their freedoms, not so different from us long ago. The freedom of assembly allows us to come together as one to support our cause. Lastly, the right to petition. Citizens can ask for changes in the government. The right to petition is similar to the freedom of assembly, but the difference being it involves a signed document full of signatures from people for your cause. Nonetheless, this still allows your message to come across to the government clearly all the same. If you and many other people feel they have been wronged by the government, making a petition could also make a change. My point with sharing all this information with you today is that you won't forget how important the First Amendment is to our daily lives. Before I go, allow me to share with you a quote by Hugo Black, who was once an American politician. The very reason for the First Amendment is to make the people of this country free to think, speak, write, and worship as they wish, not as the government commands. In conclusion, I hope you all can fully understand and appreciate the First Amendment, for it does so much for our lives. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Hello, my name is Isaac Carey, and I am in 7th grade at Copperwood Elementary School, and to be honest, I thought that was the only verse to America the Beautiful. And I actually chose this song because, well, it was easy. And boy, was I wrong. First off, there is more than one verse. In fact, there are 8 verses, each containing something different about America, such as its goods, its riches, and the pilgrims arriving. But today I'll be talking to you about the 3rd verse, which is as follows. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. I don't know about you, but that certainly made me feel something. I think my favorite part was, and more than self their country loved, because if you didn't know, it means that they loved their country so much that they were actually willing to die for it. I bet you already knew that, but I also bet that you didn't know that by committing your life to the military, you have to be ready to let the commanding officers take over your life. They tell you when and what to eat. They tell you when and where to sleep. For heaven's sakes, they tell you how to cut your hair. And after all they've done, no, never mind. Many of the people that you see sleeping on the sides of the streets are veterans who are done being in the military. According to the National Coalition of Homeless Veterans, around 39,470 veterans go to bed without a roof over their heads, which I think is unacceptable. They're the ones that have been fighting for our country for the past few years. They're the ones that gave up their lives, their health, and their freedom to protect the place and people that they love. And above all, they are the ones that deserve to be recognized. So this is an idea that is inspired by my amazing mother, who always does something good for everyone. Here goes. Every once in a while, my family and I will all pack together in a car and drive across town to bring my dad dinner. My mom will always make one extra meal and pack an extra water bottle to give to someone that we may meet on the way, which we always do. Pretty much anyone can do that, so whenever you go out, bring an extra sandwich or a spare $5 bill. And lastly, I can get people to do this with me because, come on now, how hard can it be to give someone on the road $5 when you'll most likely spend that same money on something useless, like a new app on your phone or, I don't know, a box of candy that you'll easily finish in like 30 seconds. Our generation needs to stand up and let those heroes that went through liberating strife know that their success is nobleness and their every gain divine. Thank you.
America is a strong nation, a united nation, and a nation founded by people seeking a better life for their families. Think about it. The very foundation of this nation are immigrants. Good afternoon, judges, guests, and fellow contestants. My name is Frederica Wheeler, and I would like to speak to you about the importance of immigration in America. America used to be referred to as the Great Melting Pot. We were taught to be proud of our diverse heritage, to be proud of our diverse culture. This is no longer the case. When asked what they would say to those seeking to immigrate to the United States, an increasing number of Americans would tell them to stay in their country. There's an unparalleled passion that Americans have when they form an opinion on a problem. And that is exactly how this country sees immigration, as a problem. We're forgetting the very thing that this nation was built upon. This nation was formed upon courage, formed upon the willingness to take the risk. Let me put it this way. Would you be willing to pack everything up and leave your home just to give your family a better life, a good life? That's the American dream. That's what the Founding Fathers believed and fought to achieve. That's what the English, the French, even the Spanish immigrants were seeking. As stated in the Declaration of Independence, we cannot deny a human being the basic human right of wanting a good life. This nation used to be proud that America was the immigrant capital. For centuries, people have arrived on American soil with little more than a suitcase and the hopes and dreams of a better life. America still is a nation of immigrants. However, as I previously stated, many Americans now see immigration as a problem, so much so that the new president based his campaign on it. Which brings me to another predicament, illegal immigration. In 2014, there was a reported 42.4 million immigrants living in the United States. 11.1 million of these immigrants were undocumented. America's problem with immigration is illegal immigration. So the question we must address is, why are so many people coming to this country illegally? I believe the answer lies within the immigration system itself. The process to immigrate has become quite arduous. Depending upon the situation, the process may take anywhere from 2 months to 10 years. If we look back to the beginning of the immigration system, Ellis Island, we find that the process only took up to 4 hours. Look at where we are and look at where we started. Why has the system changed so drastically over the last 100 years? But even with these changes, it still stands that our country, America, is a marvelous one that remains an ever-changing nation. America is the land of the free, the home of the brave, and above all, this land is home to so many immigrants. Why should we deny them the chance to have a part in this, to have their names etched in American history? I was given that chance, you were given that same chance. We shouldn't let a place of birth or a language divide us. In the words of Dolores Huerta, we can't let people drive wedges between us, because there's only one human race. One human race. We are all equals. Our founding fathers felt so strongly about this that it was even included in the Declaration preamble. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. All of us, regardless of race, gender, sexuality, religion, ethnicity, or even nationality, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, that we all deserve the same chance in life. And that all started with a group of immigrants willing to take the risk, to begin anew in an unfamiliar place, America. I'd like to leave you with these words that so many immigrants saw as they entered this great nation of ours. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Thank you.
(1969) Apollo 11. 1920, women's suffrage. 1941, Pearl Harbor. Good day, judges, guests, and fellow peers. My name is Francesca Magalang. These aren't just numbers. More specifically, they are years. These are years that changed the world. They shaped the world into what we know today. 1969, Apollo 11. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Neil Armstrong. This was the year we achieved the impossible. We reached the moon. It marked the moment humanity became a multi-planet species. It showed that when human courage and imagination are working, together we can achieve the common goal. The moon was just too far away. We never believed that we could reach it until we finally did. We all are used to seeing the smaller picture. I know I have. Like the moon, living in the United States was something that seemed too far away. I only saw America on maps, and now I'm here. Never did I dream that I would come to live here. America paved the way for us to believe that anything is possible. Now every single child has the ambition to dream big because, like what William House said, nothing is too small to know, and nothing is too big to attempt. 1920, women's suffrage. This year marked the end of the long struggle. Back until then, women were considered weaker, unequal, and had lower expectations. After this, they were given a voice in deciding political, social, and economic issues. As what Harry Hoker said, men and women have roles. Their roles are different, but their rights are equal. Young girls like me are able to stand up for what we think is right and fight for what we believe. A female can now become a police officer, be in the army, or even run for political office, because it is not about your gender, but about your conviction to help your country. We all have a voice. The power is in how we use it. And now, 1941, Pearl Harbor. This was a turning point in our nation's history, and it changed some things forever. Like what Joe Baca, former United States representative, said, Pearl Harbor caused our nation to wholeheartedly commit to winning World War II, changing the course of our nation's history and the world's future. This surprise attack from the Japanese united the entire country. It taught us to be strong and that we have to be united to get through the hardships of Pearl Harbor. Because of this, America became the defender of most humanity. Our liberty and value systems are wanted and cherished by all people in the world. History has impacted the way my future has been shaped. Apollo 11 teaches me to dream big because my dreams aren't really that far away. Women's suffrage shows me that everyone is equal and that it is how you choose to use your voice. And Pearl Harbor taught me to have courage, because you need courage to know that from the bad, the good will always shine through. My family immigrated to America because of the beautiful and bold American dream. This dream is a living representation that we need to dream big and have courage. Given our equal rights, we all have a chance to change the world. America welcomes all, and everyone is given the rights that every single human being deserves. Ask yourself, how do you want to be remembered? What will your legacy be? Now, make a choice. Are you going to do something about it? Do you believe that you can make a difference? If you do, then you are at the right place to start. You start here in America. We are all here today. You, me, all of us. We are here because of the effects of the decisions others have made before us. Their stories help make ours, from the astronauts who landed on the moon, to the brave women fighting for their rights, to the fallen heroes of Pearl Harbor. I'm here right now, in front of you, because of a choice I made. I want to write my story. Like what Apple Computers said in their Think Different ad, those who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. Well, maybe I am crazy. Crazy to think that a 14-year-old can change the world. Well, maybe not now or tomorrow, but someday I will. With the opportunities given to me and the strong will inside of me, I will be the one to make my future.
Good afternoon, parents, judges, and fellow contestants. My name is Eva Cherian, and I am here to shed light on the great deeds of a man named Thomas Jefferson. Loneliness, misery. The only thing visible through the tears of weariness is an old feather pen and the coffee-stained, crumpled up hope of an oppressed people. But the one thought that constantly fills the heart with burning passion is freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of the British Empire. Freedom to possess the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This tireless commitment to liberation was possessed by Thomas Jefferson, the greatest patriot in all of American history. This iconic hero is patriotic because he personified the ideal of patriot through his intelligence, perseverance, and love towards his country. The first characteristic that Thomas Jefferson embodies is intelligence. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, once said, "This is perhaps the assembly of the most intelligence ever to gather at the White House at one time, with the exception of when Thomas Jefferson dined alone." This quote shows how much of wisdom he had and how much of it was acknowledged. Intelligence fosters innovation within a patriot and promotes correct decision making. One of the best decisions ever made by Thomas Jefferson was the Louisiana Purchase. This patriot's decision to buy the Louisiana Territory from France opened up the western frontier and solidified relations with the country, thus opening up new opportunities for the American people. But intelligence wasn't the only thing that molded Thomas Jefferson into a patriot. There was also perseverance. Perseverance allows a patriot to relentlessly and untiringly fight for the safety and the protection of the American people. Jefferson spent night and day without proper sleep nor nutrition, drafting the Declaration of Independence. Yet when he presented it to the Committee of Five, they made 86 changes to it. The document he spent so long working on was ruined at that moment. Yet he did not raise a hand against them, nor utter a sound. He simply accepted the criticism and used it to improve his document because he understood that they were all persevering for the same goal, for the protection of America. The third and most important characteristic of a patriot is love towards their country. Thomas Jefferson's greatest expression of love was towards the children of America, the future leaders, doctors, lawyers, and presidents. He expressed this love when he became the first president to establish free education. Perseverance, wisdom, and above all else, love allowed Thomas Jefferson to be a great patriot. Thomas Jefferson is one of the most patriotic people in all of American history because he showed wisdom, perseverance, and love towards his country. He wrote many memorable documents, said memorable words, and even contributed substantial amounts to our country. Thomas Jefferson is a role model to every man, woman, and child because he stuck to what he believed in and pursued it like no other American. The hope, the pride, and the triumph of the American people reverberate throughout the history books. And in every one of those books, one name that rings like a bell is Thomas Jefferson, the precipice of patriotism. Thank you. Thank you.